everyone who's joining us. We're just awaiting our panelist, John from the University of Cumbria, who's going to be presenting this session. So I'll just wait for those to come through. And we've got John joining us now. Hi, John. I think he's just connecting to audio.
Hello. Hi, Jess. How are you?
Great, nice to see you.
Nice to see you.
Quickly introduce the session.
Absolutely.
We're on record at the moment, so maybe there's people tuning in afterwards.
Yes, no problem.
Yeah, just as a quick intro, this webinar session is delivered by the University of Cumbria, and they're going to be covering everything about university student finance. So as I mentioned, we have John with us today, who's going to be delivering the session, and we're also on hand to answer any questions that you have. And you can do that just by hovering your mouse over the bottom of the screen. You'll get a little menu that comes up, and there's a Q&A icon. So if you click that and you have any questions throughout the session, you can type them in there and John can answer them live. Additionally, there is the University of Cumbria booth over in the exhibit hall where you can chat to their staff there. So if you have any questions afterwards that you think about that you didn't get a chance to answer right now, you can ask them then. So yeah, the webinar itself will finish just before 3 o'clock, as we'll need to close this and then open up the next session. So John, I'll pop up with a little heads up in the chat when you've got 5 minutes left, just so we've got plenty of time to round up and answer any leftover questions. So
that's fantastic.
Yeah, you've got your screen shared there, John, so I'll hand over to you.
Brilliant. Yeah, so you can see my screen, can you, Jess? Everybody can see my screen?
Yeah, that's all clear.
That's fantastic. So yeah, thank you very much for your introduction, Jess. Like mentioned, my name is John. I work as an outreach officer at the University of Cumbria. And prior to my role with the University of Cumbria, I worked in further education. Before that, worked for Inspira in Cumbria, offering advice and guidance to students and to others through the National Careers Service. So, and before that, I was a student myself one time at university, so I can appreciate the sort of interest in student finance and the ideas around, well, what is student finance? What does it look like? And how big that can be in influencing your decisions and thinking about university in the future. So what this talk will kind of look to cover, appreciating that some in the sort of virtual room, some signed in today might be students in year 10, year 11, thinking ahead of their future. Others might be at that point where you're looking to apply for student finance this year, or there may even be parents, teachers, advisors in on the session as well. So for some, it will act as a little bit of a recap and a refresh around some of the information you maybe already know, or you want some reassurance on. And for others, hopefully it will show that real introduction into student finance, how student finance works, to give you some food for thought to take away with you and explore a little bit further. So what we're going to look to cover, and just to mention before I make a start, this presentation will focus around Student Finance England. So appreciating that if there are some people signed in for whatever reason, you know, Student Finance Scotland, there are different factors to consider if you live, say, north of the border in Scotland, but this will focus on Student Finance England for the next 20 minutes or so. So what we'll look to cover are tuition fees and maintenance loans and how they work and what they mean, and then how a repayment structure of those loans works. So if you do look to take out student finance, how those repayments work in the future, and obviously importantly, how you can apply. So how you physically make that application to student finance as and when the time comes. So we'll start by covering tuition fees and the loans that can come with tuition fees. So for some people, that factor of thinking about, well, what is a tuition fee? So what does that cover and how much is that? That is a big factor in thinking about your opportunities going forward, thinking about, am I going to choose to go into higher education and study a university degree? So essentially what a tuition fee covers is everything involved with your course and your university experience. So the cost of any, you know, seminars, tutorials, equipment that is needed for that, access to your library and the computer facilities and keeping facilities relevant and up to date for you to use and to get the best from your studies, all your support and wellbeing services, course administration, everything associated with going to university, including potentially, hopefully, your graduation ceremony at the end of your time studying, is all covered through those tuition fees and obviously is part of that. And your tuition fees are paid directly to the university or provider. So often when chatting to students, if it's their first thought on university and thinking about how it all operates, questions sometimes that come in are around, well, what happens? How do you pay that loan? Do you pay it up front? How do you pay for your tuition fees? what happens with your tuition fees is if you choose to take out a tuition fee loan, which the majority of students do, which we'll come on to, your tuition fee loan is paid from Student Finance England directly to your university or provider. So you don't see that money. It doesn't come into your bank as a student for you to then transfer to your university or pay your university. Student Finance will pay that fee direct to the university for you. So I'm not sure how this will operate, Jess, if this will work best or not, but just as a little intro, I can do it as a food for thought. And if there's no chats come in, that's absolutely fine. But have a little think to yourself if you're not sure. What is the cost of a standard yearly tuition for a BA, a BSc, a BA or an LLB? And have a think about what that cost is, what that might be, what it currently stands at. So this is going off figures for the 2020-21 cycle that we're currently in now, maybe subject to change in the future. But what is the maximum, what is the standard cost that a university can charge at the moment? So I'm not sure if we've had any comments pop in.
Looks like we've got a couple that have popped up in the webinar chat, John. Can you see them?
I maybe can. I don't want to stop sharing my screen if I bring them up.
That's all right. No, so I can see we've got a couple of Bs from Aaron and Levi.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Brilliant. So yes, highlighted there would be B. So £9,250 would be your standard tuition fee cost for a program like that. That is the maximum that a university can charge you. So that is the maximum that you can take out as a loan to cover the cost of your course. So it's worth noting and being aware of and being aware to look into this further. If you are thinking of studying an integrated foundation year first, for example, and leading into that full honours programme, there might be a slightly different cost attached to that as a tuition fee. Or if you're considering different sandwich year or placement years, there may be different costs to factor into that. But as a standard fee, £9,250 is what a university will charge you for your yearly tuition. So what students often factor into that decision making is, well, I can't pay £9,250 upfront myself. So you look to Student Finance England to cover the cost of that tuition for you. So you would apply to Student Finance England, which we'll come on to at the end of the presentation. And they, like I say, would cover that full cost, £9,250 for your tuition. And that will be paid direct to the university. You don't see that money and it covers the cost of your course. So you could look to enroll and apply and enroll for your chosen course and look to study for your full 3 years or 4 years, depending on the program you're studying. So that really is one of the main sort of crux of student finance. Of when you see the fees, and those numbers are quite large numbers, and if you think of 3 years of study at £9,250, and people sometimes start thinking, well, how can I afford that? How will I afford that? That is where student finance first and foremost comes in, really, to cover the cost of those tuition fees for you. And we'll highlight again, like I say, how those repayments work and what that looks like further down the line in a couple of slides. So things to note about the tuition fee loan. So you've decided for what, the course that you're interested in, you want to apply, but you've got those ideas about fees and thoughts about fees. So everybody who is entitled to Student Finance England is entitled to a tuition fee loan to cover the costs of your first full undergraduate degree. So you can apply to Student Finance and it will meet the full costs of your tuition fees for your course. The amount of tuition fee loan you can apply for does not depend on your household income. And we'll come on to loans that are impacted by household income, but sometimes that is a confusion, some confusion that sets in with students of, well, I want to go to university, but household income, and what does that mean, and how does that work, and what will I be entitled to? I won't be able to afford the fees, etc. For your tuition fee, your household income and other factors do not influence the amount you are entitled to of tuition fee loan. And importantly to note, which I'll remind people on at the end, is you're eligible to apply before confirming your place. So you might apply for your course through UCAS, through the UCAS cycle, and then you want to start your student loan application, which is separate to that UCAS application. Then you'll be able to start that process and apply for your tuition fee loan before finally accepting or having your offer come back in from a university. And again, we'll cover that on the last slide that we highlight, but it's just important to note. So you've got your tuition fees and a little bit of an insight on tuition fees there and how that works. So one of the main additional sides to student finance is applying for a maintenance loan. Now, a maintenance loan looks to help with the cost of living. So when you decide to apply to university, you might be looking at universities that are further afield, that you'll be moving away from home. You might be choosing to study local to you, which is fantastic as well. But you've got things to consider like rent or bills. You know, you want a phone, you want to keep paying that phone bill, but you won't be able to work as much whilst you're at university. All of those factors to consider. So various points there, which I'm sure we'll all be aware of, different things to factor in with your cost of living whilst being a student, whilst studying at university. Rent, like I've mentioned, travel. So are you commuting to your campus? How much does that cost you each day to do that? You travel home to see your family and your friends and your parents and carers on weekends or on holidays. How much does that cost? Food. Have you started thinking about budgeting for food, and how much does it actually cost for a weekly food shop, and what does that look like? Bills, phones, Netflix, other things that we've mentioned. What are you going to factor into your budgeting? All of this obviously costs money. You've then got your books and equipment that you'll need for your course, any socializing, shopping. Obviously, we all need various bits of shopping now and again, all to factor in with being a student, being a full-time student, and how do you afford these things alongside that time spent at university. It might even be that you've got commitments to holidays in the summer and you know you want to be saving up money towards going on holiday. And if you're doing that from any part-time work you do, how do you pay for these other things alongside that? All to factor in to studying at university. And the maintenance loan element of student finance is there to support with that. This is what is paid directly to you. So when you hear students talk about, got my student loan in today, student, I can't wait to get my loan in my bank, this is the loan that they're talking about, their maintenance loan. So it's paid to you as the student in 3 termly installments. And the amount you're entitled to may depend on factors such as your household income, whether you live with your parents, whether you're choosing to study in London where the cost of living is higher. So all different factors that can impact how much you're entitled to from student finance. But essentially, the sort of aim of the maintenance loan is to support you through your study and through your time at university. So yes, you may look to work part-time alongside your studies, but the maintenance loan that you're entitled to, in theory, is there to support you with working less hours so that you can focus more time on your studies, so that you can look to move away to a university that you really want to go and study at. There's a course at a particular university you're really enthusiastic and really motivated to study, but you're not sure how you would live in an expensive city, etc. The maintenance loan is there to support with that. And for me, just on a personal note on the maintenance loan, and again, through the work that we do at the university and speaking to students, this is often one of the biggest factors to consider with student finance is the maintenance loan element to student finance. And how are you going to be able to support yourself through university in terms of your budgeting? What money do you have coming in? What money is yours to spend to support you alongside, like I say, maybe any part-time work that you look to take on weekends or on evenings alongside your studies, rather than focusing on those tuition fee loans, which we'll come on to, because the repayable element of the loans is very unique compared to different loans, commercial loans, bank loans, etc. So when we cover the repayment section and how repayments work next, it will become clearer to you what I mean by factoring in that maintenance loan and that cost of living, maybe prioritizing that over the thoughts of, well, those tuition fees are too high, I'll never be able to afford paying that back, etc. So how much is the maintenance loan? What we have on the minute are the figures that are on the current cycle entry, so the 2020-21 entry. And the next couple of slides will just give you a little bit of an insight as to the numbers to kind of expect or to have in your mind when you're thinking about studying away at university. So the different examples on there, I won't word for word go through each, but for example, you're living at home, you study outside, you study throughout the UK, you may be entitled to up to £7,747. But on the bottom row there, for example, you've got a university in London in mind, you're looking to go and study in London where the cost of living is higher, and you're obviously moving away from home to do that, then you may be entitled to up to £12,010. So there is that difference there. And like I say, those figures are split into 3 termly installments. So you would get that 12,000, for example, if you were entitled to the maximum amount, split over 3 termly installments. And in terms of thinking about, well, what is household income and how much does that impact? That is often one of the questions we get asked. There are obviously other factors as well, which I mentioned, but in the time that we've got today, I won't be able to go through every impacting factor on maintenance loans, but I'll point you in a direction to have a little look into it for yourself. But in terms of that maintenance loan and thinking about household income, you've maybe got an awareness of your parents' income, mum, dad, step parent, etc. Then you're looking at these figures here and thinking about, well, I'm going to be living away from home. I'm going to move into a different city to study. And I know that my parents earn a household income of under, say, £30,000. Then you're starting to get a number to factor into your thinking of, right, well, I'm going to be entitled to around £8,000, £9,000 split between the 3 termly instalments, have roughly, what, £3,000 a term, to spend. So depending on, you know, the factors that are sort of individual to you, your own individual circumstances will impact that maintenance loan that you're entitled to. If for whatever reason you're obviously from a household where your parents earn a larger amount, then you are entitled to that less, less maintenance loan. But it is important to note that you will still be entitled to some. And again, that is often a kind of myth, if you like, that we hear. And then when speaking to students, well, I would go to university, but I know that I won't be entitled to any maintenance loan because of X, Y, Z. You will, if you are eligible for student finance, you will be eligible for some maintenance loan. It may just be the lower amount. It won't be maybe as much as somebody else for whatever reason due to their individual circumstances, but there will still be support for your maintenance, for your living costs from Student Finance England. And there may also be additional maintenance grants that you're entitled to. So when applying for a maintenance loan, you'll give your details of things such as your household income and your course start date, and it may be that you're eligible for additional maintenance grants. Now, a grant is paid into your bank at the start of each term, just like the maintenance loan is, but the difference is that you don't have to pay a maintenance grant back. So your maintenance loan and your tuition fee loans are both repayable, but a grant will be non-repayable. So it'll be money for you that you don't then have to pay back on top of any loan that you've taken out. But it'll obviously reduce that loan. So instead of getting X amount as a maintenance loan, you will get X amount as a maintenance loan plus some amount as a maintenance grant. And it may be that for whatever reason, you're also entitled to special support grants. So for example, you're a lone parent or you have certain disabilities or learning support needs, you may be eligible for additional support through Student Finance England. And you'll be told if you're eligible for these grants when you apply for student finance. So when you start making that application, Student Finance will flag up to you if you're eligible for any additional grants, additional support, and direct you for how to apply for those. And to find out more, even before you apply, you can visit the gov.uk Student Finance Calculator website, and you can click that green Start Now button and start to play around with different things that you put in. So you may not have a full awareness of what your parents earn, but you can put in an idea without having to start formally applying for student finance. And that will obviously allow you to get a bit of a further understanding as to what you might be entitled to for when you're going off to universities. And again, being able to factor that into, well, I want to apply to this university. I know that student finance will cover my fees, but I need to factor in how are my studies going to look alongside any part-time work that I need to do, or anything, you know, in terms of living away from home for that first time. What support can I get from Student Finance England? So just to sort of finish on before we look at how to apply is repaying your loan. So I've mentioned and been quickly whizzing through both those tuition fee loans and the maintenance loans there. And both, like I say, are repayable other than those grants. So you've taken out your loans, you've finished your degree. How and when do you start repaying your loan, and what does that look like? So both your tuition fee loan and your maintenance loan are combined into one single loan for the purpose of repayments. Now, repayments are from the April after graduation or leaving your course. So you'll graduate and then you will start being charged repayments, if applicable, from the April following your graduation. And repayments, again, these figures are on current figures that are out there. They are subject to change. So if you're an applicant that's going to be applying in 3 or 4 cycles time, you're currently a student who's in year 10, year 11, then these figures may change by the time that you apply to university. But at the moment, repayments are 9% of your income over £26,575. If your salary falls below £26,575, or you're not earning above that amount in the April after you graduate, then you won't be paying anything back on your student loans. So you won't be making any repayments towards your student loans until you're earning over that threshold. It's based on how much you earn, not how much you owe. So if you've taken 3 years tuition fees, plus X amount of maintenance loan, whatever you've been entitled to, you're paying back based on how much you earn in the future, not on the amount that you owe, which is very, very different, like I say, to those bank loans, usual loan repayment systems. And your payments are automatically deducted from your salary. So on graduation, you go into a fantastic job, you're earning over £26,575 a year, then your payments that you owe will automatically be deducted from your salary. And for anybody who works or works part-time at the moment, if you've ever received a pay slip, on your pay slip, you'll have your different lines of PAYE tax, national insurance tax, and on there will say student finance, and it will deduct the amount of student finance relevant to your wage, to your salary. And one really unique factor, really worth highlighting, is that your student loans through Student Finance England are written off after 30 years if you have not repaid the full amount. So straight away, people are maybe calculating in your head, and this is what I mean when on a personal note of thinking about how much you'll be taken out and having those factors around thinking about, well, I'm going to be in lots of debt and I'm going to have a lot to repay. For me personally, the biggest factor in thinking about studying at university and the loans and how that will work is thinking about your cost of living and how you're going to support yourself as a student alongside your time as a student. Because in terms of repaying the loans, you'll go into employment after graduating, hopefully into a fantastic position. But how much are you going to be earning over £26,575 from the minute you graduate? And if, say, for example, for a year, 2 years, you're not quite earning over that amount, which is normal and can happen in terms of graduate salaries and what graduate salaries look like for that first year, second year on graduating, then that may be 2 years or 3 years that you haven't started paying any of your loan back. So already you're eating into that 30 years. And then in terms of, I'm just thinking, conscious of time, Jess, a quick example would be a graduate earns £27,000 a year before tax. This means they earn £2,250 a month before tax. What will they approximately pay back per month? And you might be surprised to know, or to work out, depending on how quick your maths is, that a student earning that much would be approximately paying back around £3 a month. This is because £2,250 is £36 above the monthly threshold of 2,214 when you break it down into the monthly payments, and 9% of 36 is roughly £3. So that's highlighted on this next slide here. And again, I'll point you in the direction of where to find further information like this in the future. But it just breaks down for you your yearly income before tax on graduating. If you're earning, say, £31,000, you're paying a monthly loan repayment of roughly £39 a month from your salary. So again, hopefully, not to put people on their spot about their maths, but thinking on those scenarios that I've mentioned, for the first 2 or 3 years, for whatever reason you're earning under that threshold or just right on that threshold, you're paying either a very small amount or not paying anything back towards your loan. It might be 5, 6 years. Fantastic. You're going up your pay scales. You're earning more money in your employment, in your future, which is great. But are you in 30 years going to have repaid 3 times £9,000 for your tuition fee loans, plus any maintenance loan that you take out? What does that look like? And after 30 years, with the government offering to wipe that loan for you, in terms of that repayment structure, it is a very, very unique loan. So in terms of factoring in for your decisions and thinking about studying at higher education, then thinking, well, I'm going to be in lots of debt. Yes, it is to consider, absolutely, and is something to bear in mind with your decisions, but it isn't a debt that will impact you like other debts will with other loans. It is there to support you through your higher education. The repayment structure is there to support you when graduating, based on how much you earn, not how much you owe, so as to support you in that way of repaying. So just really to be aware of. So in terms of applying, again, depending on the year that you're in, this might be applicable to you now, or it might be applicable to you in the future. but you apply online. All applications are made through Student Finance online at gov.uk/student finance. And the first time you apply, you'll need to prove your identity. So if you have a valid passport, you would enter details from your valid in-date passport, or they would ask for you to send your birth certificate, a copy of your birth certificate. If you apply for a loan that depends on your household income, such as maintenance loans like we've discussed, then your parents or your partner will need to provide financial information, potentially their national insurance number, which they'll then be able to process in terms of their household income. So it's really important just to know that Student Finance will ask for details like this. They will ask for identity, they will ask for evidence of things such as your household income, and just being aware of having to send that off to Student Finance to move your application along. You can apply for both the tuition fee and maintenance loans at the same time, and you apply usually from the February before you start. So if you're looking to apply for university, say for September 2021, then around February this year, around February 2021, your Student Finance cycle will go live, and Student Finance will make, their website updates, and you'll be able to apply through Student Finance from February. What they usually put is a deadline, a banner of a deadline for late May. But just as a real inside point to that, it isn't a deadline as in, if you haven't applied for finance by that time, you will not be able to go to university, your tuition fees will not be covered. It is a deadline in the sense that if you're applying for those maintenance loans, you know you're going to be needing that maintenance loan in your bank to move away from home in September for Freshers Week, then you will need to have your application approved by late May so that they have time to process that for you, and your first maintenance loan will be in your bank for that term that you start. If you apply after May, they will still process your application, they will still pay your tuition fees, but you just won't be guaranteed that maintenance loan for that first week that you start university, which again is something to factor into your decisions of, well, I know I'm going to need that to pay my rent, to pay my travel, to pay my cost of living whilst I'm at university. So I need to be really, really sharp and keep on top of when the loans when the application process starts, so that I can get my loan approved. And just really to highlight there, you do not need a confirmed place to apply. So obviously that application process starts in February. You might not have had your interview for university by that time. You might be waiting to hear back from certain universities. You'll still be able to apply for where you're intending to go to. If for whatever reason between February and your time starting university that changes, you'll be able to log into Student Finance and change that in your application to obviously the relevant university that you're applying to. So really just to finish from me, because I'm conscious Jess will be moving us on for time, to find out more information, aware that it's a difficult topic to just go through in a situation like this of delivering on a webinar when people might have different questions at different stages and have very unique circumstances to them, as finances often are. Obviously, the gov.uk website is where all this information is housed. It's where you apply. So that's a really strong starting point. You can also visit the Cumbria University website and visit our student finance section, or UCAS, where you apply to undergraduate courses through the UCAS process. You can also find lots of up-to-date and current information on the UCAS website. And just a final one that's highlighted there is you may be applying to a healthcare related course, an allied health course. There are obviously the NHS bursaries that are available for this academic cycle, potentially in future academic cycles as well, which is sometimes what people have questions on. By all means, head direct to the NHS website, where you'll be able to find their financial support for university section, where they talk through how their bursaries work, the bursary schemes, and the support that they offer. But yeah, appreciate that I've kind of rushed through things there. I will leave Jess to introduce the next talk. Any questions, I'm available in the University of Cumbria chat booth. So do feel free to head over to the chat booth in the exhibit hall and find the University of Cumbria stall, and happy to answer any questions in there.
Brilliant, thank you, John. I think that's really well covered the student finance process. The links are there on screen. I've popped a couple in the chat.
Brilliant,
and
thanks,
I'm conscious
Jess.
the session will be closing now, but as John mentioned, do find him in the exhibit hall by clicking the button on the University of Cumbria booth. So thanks again, John, and thanks to everyone
Jess.
for attending. Take care now.
Thank you, everybody. Bye.
Bye.